Help support the channel during the adpocalypse by visiting our Amazon store for gear like the giant squid clip-on microphone. Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is the Mundane Matt channel, and oh my god, I hate stories like this because all this is going to do, and I'm sure by now you're looking at the headline and you're going, oh my god. Because for one, it's not as bad as the headline makes it out to be. And two, it's only going to fuel the BS that's going on right now between the mainstream liberal media and the attack on Roy Moore, because it's crazy. It's crazy. It says here, Roy Moore accuser admits she wrote part of a yearbook inscription attributed to Alabama Senate candidate. Now, that is true, but it's not the part you're thinking of. And that is the whole issue here. There is the context of what was added versus what was allegedly originally written by Roy Moore back in the 1970s. So it says here, one of the women who accused Alabama Senate candidate Roy Moore of making advances on her when she was a teen, and he was a local prosecutor, admitted Friday to writing part of the yearbook inscription she offered as proof. A new cracker in her story that gives Moore an opening to attack her credibility. Yeah, and the fact that Fox News has to spell that out goes to show you precisely where they're trying to guide the story at this point. Now, here's the original inscription, and you can see Roy Moore's signature there, alleged signature, okay? And then you can see the date, and you can see the old hickory house, and the writing there is different than it is anywhere else. So that did always strike me as odd when I looked at it, whereas most people focused on the Roy Moore and how the Y is then versus his signature now. So that has been a big part of controversy. That was a big conspiracy theory run by certain people out there on the internet when this thing came up last month or so. And it's funny because they were kind of focusing on the wrong thing. They may have been on the right track, but they were focusing on the absolute wrong thing. Now, Beverly Young Nelson admitted to ABC News that she added notes beneath what she said is Roy Moore's signature in her high school yearbook, an inscription that she and famed attorney Gloria Allred presented as proof when the then 30-something Moore sought an inappropriate relationship with her in the late 1970s. The notes below the signature appear to be the handwritten date and location. Nelson still insisted that Moore wrote most of the message. So here's the thing. So it wrote most of the message. I mean, if all she did is add these two lines, I'm pretty sure writing all of the message outside those two lines, that's not just most, but like the vast majority, the overwhelming majority. You could easily find a better word to use than most. Most would like be, you know, I don't know. It's kind of dumb, but here's what she says. Tom Lamas, what kind of name is that? Lamas. Anyway, asked her, Beverly, did he sign your yearbook? She says he did sign it. And you made notes underneath. Yes, she replied. While Nelson did not specify exactly what she added to the inscription, the text beneath Moore's signature reads 12/22/77 Old Hickory House. During her original press conference with Allred in November, in which she made her original accusation, Nelson read aloud and attributed the entire inscription to Moore, including the date and location. And see, that is just a huge red flag for this particular story in the eyes of many people. All right, does it? You can look at the writing, and you can between both, and you can see that there's a clear difference there. But it's something they should have acknowledged right away. That's the big problem here. They should have acknowledged this. They should have come out and been like, no, sorry, actually, this was the other thing. Yeah, it's just this situation with Moore, whether you support him or don't support him, has gotten out of control. I mean, out of control in many cases. It is just, it's nuts where it's at right now. You have 9 women that have come forward and accused him of impropriety and misconduct. He's denied it. And you had the several senators like Mitch McConnell call on him to step down. McConnell saying he believed the accusers, and then McConnell backtracks, and other Republican senators backtrack on their original claims because they're putting party over country in this particular case. But then at the same time, to be fair, you have this, which puts a huge crack in Beverly Young Nelson's story, which is one of the key components used, the key pieces of evidence is used in the accusations made against Moore. So Senator Roy Moore is going to be a thing in 4 days. I don't think Doug Jones stands a chance with this thing coming out right now. So it says here, yeah. So at the time, Nelson did not admit to writing the date and name of the restaurant herself. The implication is that it had been written by Moore. And I saw like Seth Meyers and other late night comedians comment on the date and location, and attribute it to Roy Moore as well. And because it wasn't presented as that, because it wasn't presented with that being an addition made by Beverly Young Nelson herself, it was treated as part of the original inscription, which is not real. It's not accurate. It's not valid. And now we find ourselves in this particular situation where a lot of people who went after this are going to have to eat crow. Maybe. I will be curious to see what Stephen Colbert's response to this will be tonight, if he, in fact, at all brings it up. Now, ultimately, in the overall, I guess you could say, grand scheme of things, this is kind of a nothing burger. But it is a nothing burger that should have been announced when they made that original press conference. But it's like I pointed out multiple times before, I think on this channel, definitely in my own private life, Gloria Allred sucks. She's just a horrible lawyer, and with any luck, this will get her some serious trouble, because that feels like it's almost altering evidence, faking evidence to use against Roy Moore. Even though if they just would have come out and said, that's his stuff, that's my addition, bam, done, no one would have cared. This has now called it into question and brought her credibility very much into question. Now, of course, Moore is definitely going to be using this as a way to gain a little bit of political ground by tweeting out on Friday. She herself claimed or admits to lying. He's denied signing the yearbook, said he did not know Nelson at the time. Moore, who went on to become a judge and the Chief Justice of the Alabama State Supreme Court, later ruled against Nelson in a 1999 divorce case. Now, some people out there have brought that up as saying like, ho, 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 that's it, man. She's just getting revenge on him for ruling against her in a divorce case back in 1999. And maybe that's playing a part in this, but let's kind of like, let's discuss the fact whether or not this is a legitimate thing. If he did in fact sign her yearbook, and he did in fact do what she says that that she claims that he did, and this is getting revenge for that as well, I mean, can you really blame her? People can have multiple motives. Not everything is black and white. We live in a world where 50 Shades of Grey is a trilogy. Anyway, the Moore campaign has questioned the authenticity of the inscription since the claim surfaced last month, but at no point did they ever actually go and call for a forensic team to come in, a forensic analysis to come in to test the age of the ink, right? Like, if it were me and I were wanting to blow something like this wide open, I would want to go in there and have a forensic team like test it, because you can easily test the age of the ink to give you an estimation of when it was written. Was it written 2 weeks ago, or was it written 40 years ago? It's a question. And the fact that he didn't do that, and the fact that even now is using this as more of a way to get a one-up, it kind of leads me to believe that there is some suspicion that it's possible that it did happen. During a press conference in Atlanta on Friday, Nelson and Allred stood by their claim that Moore himself inscribed the message in the yearbook, but Allred acknowledged the last part, including the date and location, was written by Nelson. Yeah, you should have put that in the first place. Beverly indicates she added that to remind herself of who Roy Moore was and where and when Mr. Moore signed her yearbook. But the question is, when? Was it recently? Was it back in the 1970s? When did, if her accusations against him are to be believed, essentially, wouldn't she herself have remembered all of that in great detail already? I mean, yeah, granted, writing notes down does help, especially when it comes to legal proceedings. You'd be amazed at how far writing down a note will go. There's a reason why the Comey letters were that big of a thing, because it does show at the time that that's where things were at. You're writing it down, and it's not 100% believable, but it gives you a better understanding. That being said, those could also, always be faked. You could be prepping for something in advance and write something fake down in order to, kind of treat it as viable down the road. I don't know. Anything could happen here. Allred said a handwriting expert named Arthur T. Anthony determined that the signature is Moore's and released a report on his findings. I want everyone to know that I stand by my previous statement that Roy Moore sexually assaulted me, Nelson said. Okay, good. You stand by it, but I don't know if this particular evidence is going to be usable anymore. It's been tainted, and if it's tainted, it can't be used. And you basically just handed Roy Moore the Senate seat. You basically just did by not admitting that. And I don't think there's any other way to describe it. Last month, the Moore campaign demanded that a handwriting expert be allowed to review the yearbook. Okay, well, that's at least they demanded that it did, and apparently one already did, and released a report of the findings saying that it was in fact him. I would have again, I would have tested the ink. Now, Moore, who is 70, is running against Doug Jones in a bruising special election to fill the Senate seat vacated by Jeff Sessions. The election is on Tuesday. The Nelson accusation had bolstered claims by other women that Moore had sought relationships with teenage girls in the late 1970s. Lee Korfman claims Moore assaulted her when she was 14. Another woman claims Moore groped her in his office in 1991. Now, the update to the story, because there was an update to this one, because this was the first story that went out by Fox, and it was blasted in the media as being erroneously covered because they had to change a couple things. Says here, an update to the story reflects that Beverly Young Nelson admits writing what ABC News characterized as notes beneath what she said is Roy Moore's signature, and that the only notes below the signature are the date and location. Furthermore, the headline on the story now specifies that Nelson admits to writing part of the inscription itself rather than forging part of it. So to summarize this whole thing, I don't know what's going to happen next. This is a bit of a bombshell. It's definitely going to be a big of a hit to the anti-Roy Moore crew that's out there right now, those that are trying to keep him from getting a Senate seat, trying to, get Doug Jones elected. And this is a kind of thing that when it comes to the bevy of accusations that have been made against politicians and entertainers and media, personalities over the course of the past couple months, that cannot happen. Because if you want to be believed, if you want these stories to be credible and to be treated as such and to be treated as valid and not figments of imagination, then if you alter a piece of evidence or had altered it or whatever, you have to acknowledge and admit that up front in order to let people know that yes, this has been changed, and to take it at the value of which is now being presented. Allred screwed the pooch on this one. Beverly Young Nelson screwed the pooch on this one, and as a result, it's probably going to end up with Roy Moore getting the seat. And whether you want that or don't want that, it just goes to show you that when it comes to presenting these kind of cases, when it comes to making these kind of claims, you cannot be fake news, because all it's going to do is give your opposition more ammo to take you down. Hey guys, that wraps up this video. If you'd like to leave a comment, please do so below. I love to read your guys' input. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. It really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. If you want to support the channel, there's the Amazon affiliate store, there's PayPal, there's Patreon, there's Bitcoin. And if you're bored and you want something else to watch, check out 3 Buck Theater up here. My name is Matt Jarbo. I will talk to you guys later. Have yourself a wonderful day. Peace out.